There's certain things you just don't say, even if you're upset at the time, even if it was done to you when you were younger and everything. In love, we learn to be kind, loving, and gentle. I see couples do this all the time. Do not argue with your significant other in front of other people. Welcome back to the Audacious Faith Podcast, episode 111. I start off with a question. Hey, do you think I'm sexy? Now, I know you already have an opinion about that, and I probably don't want to know the answer, and that's okay. But, hey, that's really the wrong question that most people are asking today, isn't it? And that's the problem with relationships. That's why they fall apart. That's why there's so much trauma going on, and people are literally just freaking out emotionally quite often because relationships are going wrong all over the place, because that's the question primarily that they're asking rather than focusing on the things that it really needs to be. So, now that I've got your attention, how can you actually have good relationships that last? Okay, let me just start off by saying, by the grace of God, I've had a relationship that's lasted for quite a long time. July is coming up here. We're in the year of 2024, and in July, my wife and I will have been married for 38 years. So I'm thankful to God for that. I give her the credit and give God the credit. I definitely don't give it to me. But I will tell you this, because of that, hopefully, at least have a little bit of moral ground to be able to give you some advice on this particular subject. I know there's a lot of people out there that are looking for a good relationship, one that's going to last, life that they can share with somebody that loves them and that they can love as well. So what are the questions that you should be asking, and what are the standards that you need to have a good relationship like that? Okay? So the first thing is that I will tell you is that often people are just looking for that question I started with. Well, are they sexy? Am I attracted to them? Do I just, melt when I'm around them? All of those types of things. Well, here's the thing. When your relationship is built on that and that alone, then when you're not feeling that someday, or when they're not feeling that about you at a particular moment, it's going to go south, and it's going to go south very quickly. Also, you know what? When it's only built on that, let's face it, even the greatest food that tastes so wonderful that you like gets a little bit boring when that's the food that you eat every day. All right? And so it can't be based completely on these type of things. And so the first mistake that people often make in relationships is they get off on the wrong foot to begin with. Okay, the sex and all of that type of thing, it's supposed to be contained within the marriage relationship. That's what the Bible tells us. All right, it tells us that anything else is fornication. All right, and a lot of people don't want to go by that today. I see this over and over again when I'm counseling. You know what? It almost always comes down to relationship issue, and it usually comes down to this particular issue right here. All right, so step number one, very important, is that your relationship can't be built on that. And in fact, if you want to have a relationship of trust, then you will wait and keep it within the confines of marriage, all right? Let me explain that for just a moment, all right? In the future, there's going to be times, situations, other people that come into the life of your significant other, all right? And you're going to get possibly a little insecure. We all do, okay? And you're going to have that choice to make. Do I trust them wholeheartedly because they're a person of moral character and godly character, or do I wonder? All right? Well, a lot of that trust or wonder is going to be based on what the two of you do right now. All right? If you're able to honor God right now, then when that time comes later, you're going to have more trust because you're going to say, no, you know what? They're a person of conviction that honors God. I know this because we did it. Okay? But if they're a person that gives into temptation, then you're going to also wonder later going, well, you know what? We knew the principles of right and wrong then, but we didn't follow it. So how do I know for sure now that they're going to follow it now? All right. So these foundations go and they carry the decisions that we're making right now, carry into our relationship for years and hopefully even decades to come. All right. So that's number one. The second thing is that your relationship, instead of being built on whether you think they're sexy or not. Now, I'm not saying you don't take that factor into consideration at all. I mean, if you're repulsed by looking at them, I mean, then obviously that's not good either. Okay? But the second thing in consideration is this. Your relationship should be built on some respect and friendship. You know, the Bible tells us that, you know, a man shall leave his father and mother and cleave to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. That's a lot more than sex right there. Okay? Cleaving, that's a relationship, a tight relationship, a close relationship, all right? And in order for us to do that, it's got to be someone that we respect, that we like, that we enjoy their company, that we really care about them, all right? Not just their looks, not just the emotions, not just the lustful, tingly butterfly feeling that we feel when we're around them. This is extremely, extremely important. Build respect, build a friendship. You should enjoy and be able to just talk. Talk about dreams, talk about what you like, talk about your feelings, talk about what you're going through. Talk about and enjoy together what makes you happy. All of this is essential for a good relationship. If you can't talk, if you can't communicate, if you don't even respect, if you don't even like them on the things that they do and the things that they act, you're going to be in a world of trouble very, very quickly. All right? So that's the second thing. Third thing, if you're a person of faith, and not everybody that watches this podcast is, all right? But if you are, it is essentially important that the other person is also a person of faith. All right? The Bible tells us, do not be unequally yoked or joined together with unbelievers because you have nothing in common. It says, what fellowship, what closeness does light have with darkness? They're the opposite. All right? The views aren't going to work. The desires aren't going to work. One's going to be dragged by the other, and usually it's the believer, it's the person of faith that's dragged down and compromises to please the other. In the Old Testament, we find warnings of this. All right? God told and warned the people not to take on wives and take on spouses that worshiped other gods, because what would happen is that would drag you away from worshiping the true and living God. All right? And it happened over and over again, and it's happening over and over again today. People of faith who then get in relationships and don't set high a standard and a must non-negotiable that the other person has to be a person also of faith, or they won't even consider it, they won't even go there. Instead, they go there, they get sucked in, they're now down the line, and then they compromise it. And before you know it, their faith, they're not even practicing it that much anymore, or it's hindered for years and decades to come, and they can't agree on the crucial things of life, including how they're raising their kids, the decisions they're making about that, the standards that they're having, the dreams, the things that they're prioritizing, everything. All right? There's just a problem. Okay? And so if you're going into a relationship and you're not already there and you're not already married and you haven't already made that choice, all right, a non-negotiable should be that the other person should also be a person of faith. The fourth thing is, you have to understand in a relationship, it's not going to be all about you. In fact, just the opposite. A great relationship requires self-sacrifice. It just does. All right? People don't stay married for 38 years or more. Ask any couple that's been married for a long time and say, hey, has it been about you every day? Of course not. All right? There's self-sacrifice that has to be there. The Bible tells us in the book of Ephesians, for instance, that husbands are to love their wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself for it. All right? It says that wives are to honor and respect their husbands as unto the Lord. Okay, this is what the Lord tells us to do. There's that putting the other one, the care of the other one, the concerns of the other one. That's right. Maybe you've got that, you love your food, right? And your wife or your husband says, hey, can I have a bite? I mean, you're sitting there, I want every bite that I have. But you know what? Just like you would hopefully give that bite to your child, hopefully you're going to do that as well to the other one. You know, a lot of couples do things differently. They'll have separate finances. They'll have everything kind of separate and all that. I don't know. That's not the way it was modeled for me. That's, biblically, I'm not going to say that's wrong. I think you can have your own spending money and all those type of things. I mean, me and my wife like to do that. And she spends on, with that spending money, she'll buy things she wants, and I'm not going to question it. And I'll buy things, and she probably looks at me like, what in the world do you want that for? But, that's just certain amounts of money. But otherwise, everything is kind of put together, and we're a partnership. We do things together, and that's part of also sometimes sacrificing. I mean, she'll want to go places that I don't want to go, but I'll go. Maybe you've had this conversation. Oh, hey, I'm going to Walmart, or I'm going to this store or whatever, or I'm going to the mall. You want to go? Well, what's the honest answer a lot of times? No, not really. It's crowded. It's annoying. You can't find parking. I really just want to sit here and watch this football game or whatever I'm watching. But, she wants me to go, and she wants me to go with her. So yeah, I'll go, and then I'll enjoy it when I'm there, and I'll spend that time because I'm spending that time with her. Okay? We will not always have it all be about what we want to do. There's going to be some sacrifice. All right? And then the last one, which is extremely, extremely important as well, words and actions that reflect the love of God. All right? In 1 Corinthians 13, there's a whole course on it. Just look in 1 Corinthians 13. It tells you how love is. It's kind. It's patient. It's not proud. It's not arrogant. It doesn't parade itself. All right? It's gentle. All right? It endures all things. It has faith through all things. It hopes through all things. All right? These are all the characteristics that we're finding, and they're a reflection of the love that God has for us. And it also says in the first early part of 1 Corinthians 13, how we sound and what we're like when we're not showing love. We're like a clanging cymbal, a noisy gong. We're just annoying. All right? People get on each other's nerves, and they have fights, and they have arguments, and they have all of this because they're not being loving towards each other in a way. They're having a bad day, and then they take it out on the other. They say things that they should never say, unkind things. All right? They think about themselves, and they just lash out. All right? You have to understand, choose your words and your actions very, very carefully. Be people that communicate in a loving and caring way. It's not okay for you to say stuff and then later go, oh, I'm sorry, I was just mad. No, there's certain things you just don't say. All right? Even if you're upset at the time, even if it was done to you when you were younger and everything, in love, we learn to be kind and loving and gentle, and there's certain things you don't say. And another thing on that communication, let me say this. I see couples do this all the time. Do not argue with your significant other in front of other people. All right? If you disagree with them or whatever, don't embarrass them. Don't, put them on the spot. Don't have these disagreements. You talk about it in private, and you talk about it in a civilized way, in a kind way. Don't go to bed angry. The Bible tells us, don't let the sun go down on your wrath. I mean, treat the other person with the consideration that you would want them to afford to you as well. So many people are like, oh, yeah, in marriage you fight all the time and all that. I can tell you that my wife and I hardly ever fight. You ask my kids and ask them, they brought this up, not me. How many times did you see your parents fighting when you were growing up? And they'll tell you they don't remember it. Okay? Is that because we're just so wonderful and all that? No, it's because we were taught in premarital counseling before we even got married that you act certain ways and you don't do certain things. And if you put those principles into practice, I will tell you, your relationships will be much, much better. Well, as we conclude this episode, my prayer for you is that God will give you the relationship of your dreams, that it'll be awesome, that you'll enjoy, maybe not every day equally with that person in your life, but you'll definitely appreciate them and you'll be grateful for them for years and years to come throughout your lifetime. And that you'll be able to avoid many of the things that cause hurt to them and also to you. May God bless you in this way. And if you have any questions or comments, or you would like just a little advice or help in this area, maybe you're going through some stuff right now, feel free to reach out at jgothier@gmail.com or on Instagram or Facebook at the same name. I'd be more than happy to respond to you and to help you out in any way that I possibly can. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast and share these episodes as always. We look forward to being with you every time that we are. And this has been the Audacious Faith Podcast. God bless you.